Now, let's talk about the currency market now, which has witnessed a lot of pressure lately owing to lots of demand of foreign exchange. Yesterday, the Naira strengthened at the I&E window by 0.1%, trading at 386 Naira to the dollar, while it was flat at the parallel market to 455 Naira to the dollar. But why is there so much difference between the official rate and the BDC? Now, to give us some of the answers is the president of the Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, Mr. Aminu Gwadabe, who's here with us in the studio. Many thanks for coming on the program, Mr. Gwadabe.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here.
Yes, my pleasure.
The CBN has stopped supplying FX to BDCs in the past 2.5 months. So how have you been able to source for FX for your businesses?
First, I want to share the concern of the central bank and even the Committee on Economic Growth Plan, where they have even suggested for a unification of exchange rate. Since the lockdown of airports, the airport was shut down in March. And since then, the entire BDC subsector window was shut down because our sources include the IMTSO, the International Money Transfer Operators, which is through the banks, and then, of course, the travelers that are coming from abroad, the working customers, autonomous for 2-3 years now, autonomous transaction, that sources from banks have been cancelled. So if you look at it, all the sources are not there. So that is why there is liquidity crisis. So, and these are some of the reasons the pandemic have really caused supply disruptions. The price of crude oil has gone down. Even the supplies abroad has gone down, no demand entirely. There are times that we are even paying for the stock we have on board the sea. So a lot of sources of foreign exchange have really dried up, not even to the BDC sector, but to the economy generally. So, and once there is liquidity crisis, so you see some certain behaviors in the economy. These behaviors include even the portfolio investors who happen to be doing capital flight. They are offloading their assets, their local asset, to convert it to foreign asset to a safer destination in court. So that has fueled pressure in the retail end of the market. Also, don't forget a lot of loans, foreign denominated loans, by Nigerians, foreigners from the Nigerian banks. And what that means, anytime there is a variations in exchange rate, your portfolio must go down. So you have to act fast to make sure you get the necessary liquidity to put so that you can service your debt. 3, Nigeria is an import-dependent country. Yeah, we must appreciate the backward integration being put in place by the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria to encourage agriculture. However, our import bills remain high in food, remain high in petroleum product, remain high in medical. In fact, you can't believe it, the hospitals, as we talk, they cannot even raise $3,000-$5,000 to repair their ventilators, to show you how bad it is. And of course, to the school fees. Recently, 2 months ago, the CBN have come back with their sales to the banks, selling about $100 million to service school fees and medicals and what have you, but we are still seeing pressure. You see, the pressure is mounting on the retail end of the market. I just see you have shown IE when due at 386.6, while the parallel market is doing at 357.5, 358.5 as at this morning. So you can see there is a value 458.5. So the Naira have devalued over 30% in the parallel market. So it's a big concern. These are the behaviors in the market. And a lot of Nigerians are even converting their local asset into foreign asset. People prefer now, there is no more confidence in the local currency. So this is the situation. People want to keep, even if it is 1 million Naira in dollars, want to keep Naira. People are withdrawing their Naira from their account in the bank to convert it to dollars. People are selling their product in the shop to convert it to dollars.
But why is everyone converting their naira to dollars? I mean, there's reduced
95%
activity.
of
People
Nigerians are now
so
beginning to change. I'm sure you are even one of them.
No, I'm not one of them.
Are you sure?
So
if I should check your domiciliary account, I know it must be increasing in dollars. So this is the problem that we are facing. You see, it's currency crisis. Currency crisis devalue your asset. So, and there are a lot of information. People get free information. It's before that people don't have information. Now they know where the market is driven. And foreign exchange market is highly, solely dependent on information. So if I have an information that this is where the exchange rate of the naira is going, and I have local currency, for God's sake, what am I waiting for? I would jump into speculation. I would jump into hoarding. So these are the economic behaviors we have been witnessing, and there is fueling a lot of that disparity in the parallel exchange market.
Now, talking about that disparity now, of course, you talked about the calls for unification of the exchange rates and, of course, to bridge the gap. Right. So I'd like to ask you personally, what's your view about unification of the exchange
Even
rates?
though I'm not a student of devaluation, I still feel no country allow its currency to fall freely. However, we are all in new normal. The unification of rate is not new. Even have tried it in 2016 when they introduced the IE window. It's all about unification, from the official rate to a more market determined rate. We have seen that. That have stabilized the economy for 4 years without hearing any issue about exchange rate volatility. So it's a paradigm shift from static exchange rate to a flexible exchange rate regime. It's a new normal. I came here with my marks. So even the policymakers have to think outside the old wine bottle to a new wine bottle. We cannot be having same product with different prices, especially now when there is liquidity crisis, when there is foreign inflow crisis. The investors are checking out. The crude oil sale is down. Diaspora remittance is going to be affected by 20%. So there must be unification so as to remove. There is a lot of, criticisms on this multiplicity of exchange rate. There are a lot of questions about transparency, distortions, resource allocation. So if all the rates are unified, all this cynicism around the exchange rate will automatically remove. And you cannot see the opportunity for rent seeking because these various exchange rates are only giving birth to rent seeking, to speculation, to hoarding. So, and all these are not genuine economic activities. You cannot be holding dollar. You cannot be speculating without adding value to the economy. And you think you are doing a very good economic activity. So unification will remove that, will increase the confidence of the investors. For me, I don't even see foreign inflow coming that will receive as even the solution to our problem. Because it's not going to come now. Every country, every investor is holding his funds because of the pandemic. So we should look towards other sources of foreign inflow. We should think outside the old wine bottle to a new wine bottle. This is a creative destruction period. We need to look into our diaspora remittances. What are the challenges? Why are we not receiving the exact $25, $29 billion into the economy per annum? This is far more than the receipt of crude oil. So the government should give emphasis. I'm happy the National Assembly, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NITCOM, Nigeria and Diaspora Commission, they are all putting their head together, calling stakeholders to provide solutions so that we can deepen. This is money that is cheap, is constant. We received $29 billion last year, according to IMF. We are only going to get it fall by 20% according to their predictions. So what is 20% of $29 billion? Is this $6 billion? So which means $23 billion still going to come to this economy in this 2020 during this crisis, coronavirus. It's cheaper. So for me, I will even advise the government to even encourage diaspora remittance. Instead of us taking IMF loan at 3-5%, let's tell our Nigerians, bring your money, we'll give you even interest at 2%. Yet you're converting it to naira as an incentive. This is the money that will stay in this country. Tomorrow, if there is another corona, before you know it, the IMF will be calling back its own money. They will put us under serious pressure. The rate will scatter. The issue in exchange rate is not even the value, but the spike, the volatility. You cannot plan. Tomorrow is 450. Next tomorrow is 458.
So I
is 370.
I was just going to ask that, how are these rates being determined, especially now that, of course, you can say that level of business activities have actually reduced because of the pandemic. I mean, the airports are not open and all. So how are these rates being determined? And of course, the CBN has not been supplying your members. So how are these rates being determined?
Supply have reduced drastically into the market. Yes, we said people are not traveling. But I have told you, right now there is about $3 billion waiting for the market to fully open so that investors can take their money out. Hospitals are still working. Students are still in school. Parents need to send money for upkeep. So a lot of demand is coming. People hoarding, speculation. In fact, for me, it's not even the usual Adam Smith invisible forces that determine market rate. I call them evil forces. The evil forces are more of the invisible forces in determining the exchange rate at the foreign market right now.
Who are these forces?
Who are the invisible forces? A lot of what? I said speculation. I don't know. Maybe you buy $500 now, you keep. It's evil. Why are you keeping? You have a shop that you are buying to sell more, to make small profit. You stop. You close the shop. All the sales you converted into dollar, waiting for government devaluation so that you come and you bring it out and sell. So these are some of the certain behaviors we are seeing in the economy. And until we can assure liquidity in the market, then that is when everybody will sit tight. Because once there is liquidity, definitely those involved in those kind of illegal economic behavior will definitely burn their fingers.
But do we know when the CBN is likely to resume sales of Forex to BDCs?
I think the CBN are quite eager, even than the BDCs, to resume to business because they have already identified, recognized the roles of BDC change in terms of ensuring closing the gap. We have done it in 2006. We have done it in 2015. From 2016 to 2020, for 4 good years. These are the roles the BDC have been playing into the economy, ensuring liquidity to the retail end sector. You want to buy $500 to pay for your subscription abroad as a journalist, you don't have issue. You come to a BDC change and source it. So once the liquidity returns, and the CBN have written to us that they are preparing, unfortunately, you see, it's out of their hand, it's pandemic. All over the world, we are having fear of even another lockdown from what we are hearing because of the increase in numbers of the infected person. But I think my own solution to this, the CBN already have given the banks a window to increase liquidity, to sell medical and school fees. Since it is also scope of the BDCs, which too the CBN should look into on how they will start a minimum sales to the BDCs. Once that information is there in the market, we announce BDC, come and access the IMTSO window weekly, so amount. I'm assuring you, you can see the magic. In fact, we beat the invisible force.
We're all waiting to see that happen. Thank you for coming, President of the Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, Mr. Aminu Gwadabe.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.